Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Steve Murray with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. Uh, we are here on a Thursday, just prior to the big start of summer holiday weekend. We've got a big group here today, and I think a lot of it has to do with a little bit of the repetitive nature of our sales focuses. They're kind of meant to be relatively quick and short opportunities to learn something that can potentially help you grow the sales in your business, whether it's we've been doing most recently uh, 401k non-hardship in-service withdrawals. That has have been very popular. We're going to do Roth conversions, and that has been indeed as well a very popular subject. Although this is our first 20 for 20 on, it's been a very popular subject over the past 12 months or so. So I think it's good to note that as companies have seen the potential for uh, Roth conversions and how they can grow their business with a very, very viable option for you to show to your clients. I think they've done a much better job with building products and building their processes around Roth conversions. And many have, of course, begun the process on their side of making it much easier to do Roth conversions. You can imagine why. There's certainly a lot of folks, as they understand Roth conversions and how they work and look at where they think maybe taxation might be 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road, maybe when they're ready for retirement, it becomes a very enticing opportunity to change some money that's going to be fully taxable into money that's going to go to them with growth to them or to their heirs on a tax-free basis via Roth conversion. And then the question is, okay, how do I do it? How do I afford to pay those taxes now? And how does the process work? And so what Dave is going to talk to us about today, and he will join us here shortly, he's going to talk to us today about Roth conversions and how they work and what makes them so valuable right now. And if you're not presenting them to clients, at least mentioning them to clients and say, hey, have you ever considered one? And if you haven't, maybe let's at least have a 10-minute conversation and see if it could make sense to you. If you're not having a conversation like that, why you might be missing the boat to help your client, and you might be missing an opportunity to increase the business that you're doing as well. And what I wanted to talk about at the outset is a couple of carriers that we work with that are very good in the Roth conversion marketplace. And so, one, for instance, and Athene has a nice a deck built and good sales materials built around their Roth conversion approach because they like many of us, I think they see the opportunity as taxes rise and the stability and growth that you can have in an index product, and even with the index product with an income rider, why that becomes such a seriously intriguing story. And if they can build a process that makes it easy for you and makes it easy for your client, then they've really kind of struck gold. And so they were smart to do that. And we do, in fact, I don't know if I can do it. I won't do it right now, but at some point we've got a nice webinar that's built around their process for doing Roth conversions. And the reason that the way that some companies make it easier is that they allow you to have a base policy. And then each year, as you convert a portion of those Roth assets, they allow you to put it into what they call a child policy. So the policy is on the same annuitant and owner, but it is a new contract issued to allow you to convert over time a Roth. Because obviously, if somebody's got qualified funds that are, let's say 100,000, and now they're going to do a Roth conversion, and they want to do that Roth conversion as one big chunk, that immediate impact into their taxable liability for the year could change a lot of things about the level of taxes that they would have to pay, and certainly changes the fact that they've got to pay taxes on the whole thing, but it might throw them into another bracket or cause issues that way. So a lot of folks like to do Roth conversions. They like to do them in a way that best suits their financial situation, and a lot of times that means do them over a 1, 2, 5, 7 year time frame. And so if companies have built the ability to do that and make it an easy process, that really makes for a nice situation. So companies have done that for you. That we work with, for instance, a company that's done a nice job, as I already mentioned, was Athene. I will say Allianz as well has done a very good job with building a nice Roth conversion process and make it easy for you and your client to do those Roth conversions as a tax advantaged method as possible. And there are some other carriers as well. And so what we are in the process of building here at IAMS is, which will go well with this, with our webinar of today, is these are the companies that allow it. These are the companies that have built products specifically designed or processes specifically designed to make that as tax advantageous as possible. And in fact, here the carriers that have taken those first two steps and added the third step of allowing it to be illustrated and allowing the ability to illustrate that on their software via their software. So really nice. Now, that being said, there are also some really nice tools, really nice software tools and programs that you can access and we'll cover that as well, that help illustrate that to your client, because it's not an uncomplicated to you and to it's a relatively uncomplicated process, but to a client and for them to actually see the financial benefit of a Roth conversion and how that affects them over time, that can be a little bit more involved. And so it's good to have a way to illustrate that. And there are a couple of good tools to do that as well. So we will put together and make available on our website a little bit of a kind of a Roth conversion primer. And we may even include this webinar recording as part of that. And then we'll include with that, hey, here's the methods that you can use. Here's these right software tools or good software tools that you can use. Here are the carriers that allow it and allow it to be done on the most beneficial basis for you and for your clients. So should be really good stuff. And we thought to kick that off, it'd be nice to have the coach come and talk a little bit about Roth conversions in general, how they work and how they can help you grow your business. So just as long as we've begun to talk about the coach, Dave Pimper, let me give you some background on him so that you know what you're dealing with. Of course, Dave got in the business in the early 80s, 1981, 82. He pretty much throughout that time has offered both securities-based products and insurance or fixed-based products as part of his business. Most of that time he has done some level of seminars. Most of that time he's done some level of radio, and he continues to be very much day to day in his practice, and his practice involves himself. He's got his wife Amy, who is in his business as an administrator, and then he has two other support staff that help him with his business. Obviously, as you can imagine, when you're doing radio and seminars and probably 4 radio programs each month, pretty regularly, sometimes 5, depending. He does them every Saturday or Sunday actually, and so he's got 4 to 5 radio programs each month. He'll do 1 to 1.5 seminars, if you will, each month as well. So he keeps a pretty steady flow of prospects, and that's worked out quite well for him, as you can imagine, as he's grown his business. So not only can he tell you a little bit about Roth conversions, but he can also talk to you a little bit about, hey, these are some of the other things that I do to help people. It's good to have an expertise, and it's good to know how something works, but to have it to be able to display that expertise, whether it's via seminar or via radio, is an important thing, or via mailer, or just via phone calls and reaching out to your clients. And so he would talk about the value, the definite benefit and value of getting in touch with clients on a regular basis and looking to them for referrals, and also looking to them for walking them through the opportunities that are before them, whether it's a Roth conversion or 401 in service 401k transfer or whatever. And he would also, I think, he's built his business on the marketing solutions that allow him to get in front of many folks. So Dave is in the process of joining us here right now, and I'm going to just give him a quick quick little assist on joining us. I'm going to put you all on hold for just one moment. Well, the good news is Dave is aboard. It may just be take him a second to connect with the audio. So why don't we, as we're getting rolling here. Oh, there he is. Hey, Dave.
Yep, and I'm sorry I'm late. I ran late. I'm a producer on an appointment, and then from a technical standpoint, I'm challenged. But here I
That's
am.
not true. Here you are. Well, you're already on your first slide, so in the interest of time, I'm going to let you roll.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for everybody for being late. My name's Dave Pimper. I'm a producer, just like probably everybody on this. Hey, we got a lot of folks here today. That's wonderful. This is one of our new 2020 sales focus webinars. Those are quick hitters. We will be done and out of here within the next about next 10 minutes or so, and see whatever questions there are. I also coach, so I do seminar coaching through Social Security, other types of seminars, gearing around the retirement prospect. Do Retirement Boss Radio, which is a recorded, co-hosted show where you're the main host. Really enjoy that type of marketing. In fact, I had two really good appointments today from Retirement Boss Radio. But I also coach sales process coaching. And one of the things, kind of the hot subjects, a radio show, are Roth conversions. People are very interested because most people have traditional, but they really don't have many tax-free Roths. And if you're in a tax bracket, I will tell you right now, Roth, tax-free Roth absolutely trumps tax-deferred. Tax-deferred is very good. Tax-free is great. Steve, are you going to put the slides forward, or are you going to let me do that? If he's still there. Steve? I don't think I've got controls on this.
Yeah, I just moved you ahead. I'll give you the controls here as well.
Okay, and I'm not moved ahead on my slide yet, so I don't know if anybody else is or not. So
there you go.
Yep. Thank you. Okay, do you want to do it, or do you want to give me the controls?
I'm gonna give you the controls here.
Okay. So let's talk about just Roth conversion specifics. Okay, so what you're doing is you're taking a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, say it's an IRA, and you're transitioning it from tax deferred, where you're forced on mandatory distributions at a certain age, into a Roth where you are not. Now, you're going to pay those taxes right now on that conversion, right now. A lot of people do not want to do that. We do a lot of partial conversions, but you're going from tax deferred to tax free. And I'm telling you, if you're in a tax bracket, we're just ask, where do you think tax rates are going to go in the next 5 years? I bet no one on this webinar is going to say they're going to go down. I don't think so. I think they're going to go up. And so what happens is, just know too that there are many kind of strategies that you can do, from a guaranteed income side. It could be a fixed index, it could be a fixed, but Roth has no required minimum distributions. So if you're going to pay the taxation out of the traditional money, it's like a double whammy. It's a snowball effect. It takes much longer to break even. Instead of the maybe average of 5, 6, 7 years to break even, might take 12, 13, 14. It actually may not be worthwhile depending on your age. Okay? Now, I think I went one too many. That's my bad. Now, there's a 5-year rule with every Roth conversion. If it's a conventional Roth, just a Roth IRA, when you start your first one is when that start date is for every single one down the road, not conversion. Conversion, every one of them has a brand new 5-year rule. Okay? Now, I will say this, that 5-year rule actually is not a full 5 years. Most people don't know this. But as say you put your money in on April the 15th, the last day that you're able to put in for a Roth IRA, traditional IRA, not conversion, traditional. You put in, say, April the 15th of 2022. That's for the 21 tax. Your date starts on January 1 of 2021. So you're already out 16 and a half months till April the 15th. 60, almost a year and a half. So basically, you have like 3 years and 7 months that you've got to hold that before those earnings are completely tax free. So that's kind of an interesting thing. We do lots of partial conversions. In fact, that's the majority we do. You know, the guy has 200,000 in an IRA. He'd like to get it all in tax free. Yeah, we say, look, let's do this for the next 8 years. Let's go on in. A great time to Roth convert is before after you retire. I mean, that's what I want to do. I do some conversion now, but personally, you know, let's say for because it doesn't work with my age, but say you're 66 years of age and you retire, your RMDs are going to be forced upon you at 72. I think there's the new Secure Act. They're going to change that to age 73 or maybe even higher. But you start converting. If it's 72 is your date, well, you've got 6 years where you can convert, and that 200,000, you can go figure it out. That 200,000, if you could go in and convert like 33,000 bucks a year, I mean, in those 6 years, you've just converted $200,000 to tax-free money. So you pay your taxes just a little bit coming out on a partial. I had an older client, banker, well known in the community, quite well to do, owned a portion of the bank, and he was in his 80s and he had a bunch of daughters, and he was Roth converting every single year. And I said, Jim, why you're not probably going to live long enough, which he didn't. I mean, he did it for about 10 years, but he said, when I pass, and then everything will go to my wife, and when my wife passes, everything will go to my daughters. I want them to have as much of a tax-free asset as possible. Yeah, so it's for wealth transfers down the road. If you have any questions, type them on in. So here's what you got to consider. If you don't think you're going to be paying taxes or much taxes or in a lower income tax bracket in the future, I wouldn't Roth convert. Then a traditional is going to be better. How soon do you need to get to your money? I mean, there's a 5-year rule, but remember, it's first in, last out. So if you Roth convert 50 grand and it grows to 60 grand, the first 50,000 that you take out is a return of principal. Okay? So they talk about paying tax from non-IRA money. Absolutely. Just the break even gets out too long because you're paying taxes. You're paying taxes on the tax money. So it's a snowball effect. Age of the client, depending if they want to have a wealth transfer, but to help them, if tend to pass on, like I talked about my client. And remember this, tax-free municipal bond interest is included in provisional income with Social Security. Roth income, when you take money out after that 5 years, it's not. Remember, the first money is just return a premium, a return of principal. But the next money is earnings, which is tax-free if you hold it in there for 5 years or longer. Pretty cool. So why should you even introduce the Roth conversion? I'll tell you right now, because most advisors don't. And I think it just sets you apart lots of times. But you might be one of the first ones in your area that really goes in and works. I've got a good friend, Steve Curtis, up in Michigan. He does Roth conversions all the time. All the time. There's some things you can bone up on Roth conversions, but I'll tell you, I think it really creates a loyalty, and it creates curiosity. It's the start of that trust relationship. Boy, you're doing something for me unique that other advisors don't. They're just looking at just the financial strategies. It opens the discussion to recommend financial strategies. Absolutely. How much do we make from Roth conversions? None. It creates opportunity to close more business. That's real important. Okay? If you have any questions, just type them on in. I'll be more than happy to go through over there with you. Now, I will say this, and I want to make sure that see if I can work this thing here back. I wanted to see if I missed anything. Nope, creates good. So, Ed Slott, this is a very good book. It's a very good retirement book. The retirement savings time bomb. Ed Slott's a CPA, does a lot within the rollover world and the IRA and retirement world. But he says Roth IRA conversations are the silver lining to the economic crisis. These may be the lowest tax rates you'll see for the rest of our life. And he's talking about the Trump tax code for the average person, not all, but for the average person. Remember this too. You don't always have to liquidate out. If you've got a client and you've got it in, hey Steve, are you there or not yet? I got a question for you.
Yep. Yeah, fire away.
Yeah, I know annuities can be a little different than securities, but how many of the companies would you think? Let's say you got ABC Insurance Company, and you got 100 grand in a traditional fixed indexed annuity. Well, and you want to go in and do a partial. You want to take 25% of that and put it into a Roth. Will insurance companies allow that, or some will, some won't? But we want to do it in kind. We don't want to sell out. We want to break it and put it into a different registration. You can do that with the security, like a fund or a stock
Sure.
brokerage
Yep.
account.
Yep.
Can you do that with some of the new companies, or are
Yeah,
we
some
still
companies
unable
will
to
allow
do
you to
that?
do that. Not all. I kind of mentioned at the outset we're going to put together a little kind of a primer on what companies, because some companies definitely handle Roth conversions better than others and understand the opportunity better. A couple
Yep.
examples: Allianz and Athene really do a good job with it.
Mhm.
So many will allow that for sure, and even while in surrender, of course. And some, when you can establish a new contract and then build parent contracts under, or child
Uh-huh.
contracts under that, and continue that
I see.
process. So yeah,
So
it
is it
varies a
is
little bit, but it can be done.
could we say that any insurance company that starts with an A will do that? I'm joking. I'm
Yeah.
joking on that one. Good. So, and I think, and I've talked to you before about this. I think that insurance companies were a little later to the party, but I think they get it now. What a big deal Roth conversions can be for the client,
Yep.
and I think more companies are allowing that now. Is that safe to say?
That's definitely accurate. Yeah, over the last year or two, insurance companies have really kind of figured out the opportunity, and some are quicker than others for sure. But I think yeah, there's plenty of good companies that can do that, and you'll see it more and more as we go forward, because it's just
Good.
too makes too much sense for their clients.
Good, good, absolutely. Thank you very, very much.
Mhm.
So, you know what? You asked to yourself who might be a good candidate. Well, someone who wants to manage their taxation in retirement. That's a big, big deal. Bigger, bigger clients often are more apt to do Roth conversions. Higher income assets are more apt to do Roth conversions. If people who have Roth 401ks and Roth 403bs, remember they're not paying RMDs, but they can certainly be rolled into a Roth IRA. Okay, on that. How long they money, and how long can they let it def, compound tax free, and the interest rate, because it might be the break even might be 6 years, 7 years, something like that. So if they're way up in age, it may not be worthwhile for them, but it certainly would be for their heirs from a legacy standpoint. Okay. Again, any questions? Type just about done. We're just type them on in, please, if you got any questions at all. Okay. Trying to move this guy. Steve, can you move it forward to me for me? I just don't know why I'm having troubles. There it is. That's why I'm on the same page. Okay, who may not be a good candidate? Well, they need to access their money before that 5 years. No, that's not probably going to be as good a thing. Expect to be in a much lower income bracket. Can't afford to pay the income taxes except for the fund. It normally isn't a good candidate. So here's a myth. A conversion may be great for young people who have many years before they retire, but it doesn't make sense for an older individual. The truth is, older individuals have less time to make up for what they pay in taxes and conversion, but they may be able to benefit from Roth and ways as a tax-free source of inheritance for the heirs. I can't tell you how important that can be to some people. There's an old saying I like to always end this way. Procrastination is my sin. It brings me constant sorrow. I really shouldn't practice perhaps I'll stop tomorrow. And I bring that up because tomorrow never comes. If you saw something here with Roth conversions, Steve, are we going to put a poll up today? Should we do that?
I don't know if we have one. Let me look here real quick, Dave.
Okay.
While I'm
If we do,
looking for that,
if not, yeah, if not, no big deal. But we may put a poll up, or we may just have Brady may just call you and see if there's any questions. But if you'd like a little more information on Roth conversions, our first sales of Focus 2020 was on in-service non-hardship withdrawal plans, meaning at 59 and a half, you can work for a company and take out money, roll it over and still work there, still contribute, etc. This is on Roth conversions. We're gonna do a little sales process here coming up within the next couple of weeks, but we're gonna, you're gonna see some new things with from IAMS and Dave Pimper, Coach Dave. I mean, what I'm trying to do is, if you can spend 15, 20 minutes, but Roth conversions are hot, and I will tell you right now, I bring up Roth conversions quite often, and I do my share of them. If you don't ask them, you're not going to do them. I mean, you just aren't. But I'll say right now, if you have never done a Roth conversion, you should start right now. Because people love the idea of a tax-free benefit versus a tax deferred. So, Steve, no big deal if we can't get that poll up. Was there any questions at all before we kind of button this show up? Is there any
yep.
questions
Yeah,
that
there are a
came
couple
on up?
questions. Yeah, there isn't a poll that is
Okay.
subject to this particular webinar, so we don't have a poll up. But there are a couple of questions, and I would say too that if if there are additional questions, or if you'd like to have a longer conversation with Dave, certainly give us a call. I don't think we have displayed our 800 number, so you might want to write it down. It's 800-255-5055. That's the number here at IAMS. You can ask for Brady to begin with, or ask for any sales director. If you just say, hey, like a little bit more information on Roth conversions from the webinar here today with Dave, we'll make sure that we put you in touch with him. And if you want to, you'll also have the opportunity to get a recording of this event. I know it started a little slow, so you'd want to probably scoot ahead a few frames, or at least a little bit, and we can get you right to the good information quickly. So we have a question. So what about folks that think that their tax bracket is going to be lower, that taxes may not be higher? Does it make sense for those folks to do a Roth conversion?
That's a good question. It's how much lower? I mean, if you're going from a 30 plus bracket down to a 12, the question is, does saving 12% on your money, and remember, that's the Fed, then you got your state tax. If you live in Nebraska, you're paying, anywhere from 5 to 7%. If you live in Wyoming or Florida, Texas, no, you don't have any income tax. But if you're paying state tax, all of a sudden that 12%, like for me, or for us, Steve, that 12 might go to 18, 19%.
Sure.
Well, dang right, it's worthwhile to have
Mm-hmm.
a tax-free investment. So I would say even with the minimum amount of taxation, if you're figuring in state tax too, I still think it is worthwhile for you. Just tax deferred is very good, but it doesn't beat tax-free.
Yeah, tax-free is beautiful.
It is. It's
Yep.
a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Um, uh, for clients that cannot afford to pay the taxes without impeding into their, oh, okay, I see what he's asking. So some people will pay taxes from outside funds, and some
Yep.
people have to make a little bit larger withdrawal in order to pay the taxes. Does it make sense if you can't pay the taxes without taking the taxes out of the qualified funds account?
Well, we have people do it, but I don't recommend it.
Mhm.
So let's do the scenario. Let's say that you got $100,000 in an IRA, and you wanna go in and roll over, uh, convert 50,000, but you don't have any money in savings to pay. And let's say that 50,000, they're already making 150,000, and now they're making 200,000, and all of a sudden, let's just say their tax bracket between federal and state is 30%. So they take out that 50,000. That 50,000 is taxable. They got to pay taxes. How much tax on it? 30%. They got to pay 15 on that 50. They got to pay $15,000. Now, but wait a minute. Now they got to take out another 15,000, okay, because that's the tax they're going to pay. So it's 15,000. Well, it isn't just taking out 15,000. All of a sudden, now they got to pay 30% on 15,000. Well, that's another 465 bucks that they got to take out. So now instead of paying back 50, you got $465. You got 15,000, and you've got 50,000. Now all of a sudden you're at 65,465. Well, I mean, I'm just gonna let you know how long is it going to take just to break even. It's got to grow from 50. If you're making, let's just say, a fixed index, and you're making, say, 4% a year, well, that's 2,000 bucks. Well, it's going to take you just to break even. It's going to take you eight. If you made take you 8 years. Just can't be worth it. Do I have people to do it? Yeah. I tell them I wouldn't, but that's how bad they want to go into tax free. But do I think I would say that your break even time on that, and then it's not just break even, but it's making money on it. Yeah, it goes anywhere from 8 to 12 years is how long it takes. I think that's we can do it in a much shorter time period if you don't take taxes, because you're paying taxes on your tax money. Yikes.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an uphill battle.
It is.
Do you recommend, Dave, any particular software that you use or are familiar with besides carrier software? I know a couple carriers have
Yeah.
some
Yep.
software that would illustrate these, but anybody that you recommend to kind of say, hey, does this make sense for me financially given my time frame, the amount I'm
Right.
converting, my tax brackets?
You probably know this. I'm an old school. I mean, I certainly have a fact finder, but I'm kind of an old yellow pad guy. But I will say this: retirement analyzer. If I'm not mistaken, do they have some software in there for tax free comparison from conversions? Do you know, Steve, or not?
I'm sorry, Dave, ask me that again.
Retirement analyzer. Do you know if that
You know,
that soft?
they've got it
It,
does have a little Roth conversion
I thought
module.
it did. I thought
Yeah.
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and I know that you guys, because you've been working with that firm for a long time.
Forever. Yeah.
I
About
mean, for a
15 years
long, long
now.
time. But I know the people that use Retirement Analyzer, it does, from income planning, retirement planning. But I know that they've got a built-in calculator that does help. There are also some free ones that you can get. I mean, that you can get, if you just Google up, but they're simple. But sometimes simple is good.
Yeah.
But I would say if they call IAMS, I know you've got for people who are contracted. I mean, I don't know what you do now, Steve, but I know in the past there was some availability,
Sure.
even with you paying for the cost while they're using that. So that's pretty cool. So I would say if you've got an interest in that tax calculator in retirement in particular, yeah, I don't know how all the ins and outs work, but I do know there's some licenses that you kind of control. But you can certainly give IAMS a call and see what the ins and outs of that is.
Yeah. So if there's no retirement analyzer has a calculator, I don't know that it's hands down the best one in the industry, but it's very good. And it's not super complicated. It's math with the Roth conversion, whether it makes sense, but there are some variables, what my bracket is now, what it's likely to be later.
What
And
type of
maybe this
return you'll
comes
get on your
right.
investment? I mean,
Yeah, an investment
there's about
return. Yeah.
yeah, but you know what, Steve? You know this that they'll saying KISS, keep it simple, stupid,
Mhm.
or if you're in the woke, it's keep it simple, silly. But what happens is I think simpler the better. People,
Yeah.
it gets complicated. Our business is easy to us because we do it day in and day out,
Mhm.
but to people who don't speak the language, it can get way too complicated.
You
I
bet.
think simple is good. Yeah, so that might be something that you could give them ideas on when they call. Yeah.
You bet. Yeah. And if you want access to retirement analyzer, that would be Marcus Soller here in the office and just ask him for it. As Dave alluded to, if you're doing business with us at all, we pay your monthly fee for use of retirement analyzer, which also includes some Social Security claiming and just general,
Cool.
are you on track to hit your retirement goals? Really, really good software package. So
Yeah.
we've been using, as Dave mentioned, many, many years now. Let me see if you don't mind. I know we're running late. Let me see if there's any other questions here, Dave.
We're running late because of me. I'm sorry to everybody. I just got
It's
oh
it's a good day, I'm sure.
yeah, it was a good
Um,
day.
Yeah. Brian asks, should you keep a certain percentage of your funds is qualified, or do you recommend, generally when you recommend it, you recommend 100%? If all the financials line up on it, would you recommend 100% conversion, or would you keep some qualified for any reason? By
You got
qualified,
to
I
think,
mean
yeah,
not
yeah,
Roth, not converted.
IRA.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right. That's
yeah,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. Well, what happens is, remember, you're going to have required minimum distributions because that's why they're called that, required minimum. You know, the distributions RMD. You don't with Roth. You never have to take it out. I mean, most people have like I'm Roth converting and I'm doing Roth investments, but I still have a lot more traditional because we're all playing catch up, aren't we?
yeah.
And even though Roth's been around for a long, since 1998, it really didn't get popular until about 4 or 5 years ago. Which is very interesting. 401ks have just started doing Roths in the last 4, 5, 6 years, and they still don't have any Roth on. It's against. In fact, that's something on the Secure Act 2.0 they're going to allow. If it gets passed, I'm sure it will because it's partisan. But you know what? You can't go in and on a 401k. You cannot Roth the employer's contribution. Well, how the match? Well, how archaic is that? But you can see everybody, like we were just talking about, the like kind exchanges with annuities. 10 years ago, couldn't do it. 2 years ago, some were. I bet over half do it right now, and because they're losing business. There's some people that won't work with those companies if they won't allow in kind Roth, uh, uh, you know, conversion. So I would say this is what kind of end on this note here. But when you're looking at Roth and Roth conversions, by you bringing it up to your client or your prospect, that's probably something that the other advisor did not do. It puts you in a little bit of a kind of a better situation than if you're just bringing it up, just the asset and how can we replace that or the safety. This is what everybody talks about. It kind of sets you apart. And Steve, that's why we did in service. A lot of
Hmm.
people they don't know how to work the in service side of the business. Well, once you work it, you'll work it a lot because it's good for the client and the prospect, and financially it's good for you. It's a win-win situation, and that's what we're trying to bring on those sales focused 2020s. Some quick hitters, things you can do. And I'll tell you right now, if Roth conversions are part of your vocabulary, I will assure you that there will be business derived out of that in the long run, because you're going to be one of the first ones to really kind of hit that home and mention it to them. So I think that's kind of a good place to end, Steve.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. I appreciate you, and we don't have any more questions, so we're good to go there.
Good,
There may
good.
be some questions brewing in the back of your mind that you didn't ask today, or maybe you think about it and think, well, or if you actually have a case, and you're thinking, might this be a good one to consider for Roth conversion? Certainly call the team here at IAMS. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you. Number, of course, 800-255-5055. If you'd like to spend some time with Dave, whether it's talking about what he does on the marketing side, sales side, or whether it's practice management and the best way to maybe some tips on how to run your business that could be helpful for you, certainly let us know as well. We'll have Brady give you a call and set up a 15-20 minute conversation with David. I think you'll find it valuable, whether it's about Roth conversion, in-service non-hardship withdrawals, practice management, Social Security seminars, retirement boss radio, or just, hey, how do you get from doing a million to doing 15, 18 million? Dave can help with that. He can help with a conversation, and he likes to help people, don't you, Dave?
I do. It's enjoyable. Yep.
Yeah.
You know what? When you get really old, the little things in life, they kind of make you happy.
There's probably a remark in there that I should not make,
Yeah,
so
don't do not make it. That's exactly right.
I will. We will indeed end it on that. Let us know if we can help you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being patient through a couple of minor delays there. And if we don't talk to you before, have a great Memorial Day weekend. It's a great time to remember the people that have given their life in defense of the freedoms that we enjoy today. So enjoy the weekend, and we appreciate your being part of the IAMS family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.